Welcome to Sharing Hope. I'm your host, Jamie George. Today, our guest is Grammy Award Winning Musician Rebecca St. James, also known as Rebecca Fink or Rebecca Smallbone. She's got a lot of names. It's pretty cool.
I have middle name too. Yeah, you can add that in too.
Well, we can throw that in too. But she, some people may not know, she's also an accomplished author and actress. A dozen books, is that right? I mean,
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, in 8 different films, and so a lot of fun stuff. She's a mom. She's got 2 girls. She's got this amazing husband, Cubby. A lot going on. Life was between California and Nashville a little bit, but sounds like you're settling here.
Yes, we are.
So
I was in California 10 years, but yeah, we're back.
Yeah, and so talk a little bit about that shift back to Nashville. What's that like, and what's going on with you?
Wonderful. So yeah, I moved to California a little over 10 years ago, and in part that was acting and just some of the opportunities that God was bringing my way to do with that, and needed just to have some proximity to LA for that. But it was just a season, you know. I think in our lives, God works in seasons, and it was right, you know, for that season of my life. And I met my husband out there. We actually met in LA, which is a miracle. But yeah, I don't know that I would have expected to meet my husband in LA, but he's just an amazing man of God, and just such a good man. And there's many incredible people in LA. I love that city. So and then we lived in San Diego for a long time. Had our first little girl out there. She's 6. And I kind of unofficially retired from music and films and writing and everything 5-6 years ago. 5. Yeah, I know, actually before Gemma was born. So she's 6 now. So yeah, a little bit. And just want to be full-time wife and mom. And then about 2.5.
It catches up to where you are now, but just for people who don't know, you started singing when you were how old?
Full-time at 16. And then...
So you had a pretty long run before you had a break.
Yeah. I mean, I recorded my first album at 13 in Australia, but went full-time at 16.
Wow.
Here in the US. And so, yeah, nearly 20 years actually of the music. And so
you finally had a window of break. That was about 5 years ago-ish?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that was just really good and timely, because I was pretty weary, I think, just in spirit, being on the road so much and having all the different projects and all the, music and the books and the film. It's the things that you'd mentioned. I was a little bit, I mean, I felt probably when I finished music, to be honest, kind of like a bit of a spiritual, emotional anorexic in a way, just kind of like I was still functioning and I hadn't like hit the wall or crashed or anything like that, but just internally, like I was still functioning, doing things, but it was kind of eating into my own self. So when I kind of retired from music, I kind of thought that would be it probably for my life. And then 2.5 years ago, God radically called me back to music, which is why we're in Nashville.
Wow. So can you tell us what you're working on? Is that, can we hear anything about that? What's going on? Yeah.
So I am actually signed, and it's still it's still just miraculous to me to even, you know, be able to share this story, because it is an amazing God thing. But yeah, I'm actually signed with Bethel Music right now, and we're finishing up a new album. Have been writing for it all last year, and then and so finishing up production right now. And it's a little crazy to even be finishing up production right now with the coronavirus and isolation and all of that, but technology does allow for getting creative, kind of like this interview. It's not face to face, but we're still connecting and having God conversations, which is really nice. But yeah, so it's an exciting day. So that'll be out in the next couple months.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So how are you and Cubby coping? Sounds like you've been working a little bit, but how are you guys doing with the whole quarantine?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like probably like it is for everyone in some ways. It's a bit of a roller coaster, you know. And maybe for some people that are watching this too, it's literally just you're on the down part of it because it's just so challenging. I think for us, it's just been kind of this wave of it hits really hard when it hits emotionally, just the crisis of what we're going through and how heavy it is and how challenging it is, and just that isolation. I'm actually pregnant. I'm 22 weeks pregnant as well, Jamie. I don't know if you heard through the grapevine.
Maybe that's why when I was like, you have 2 kids, right? I think I heard.
You're like, I think there's another one in there. Another one.
I thought I heard there was a. Well, congratulations.
Yes, so thank you. We're really, really excited. But I think even, you know, that element, I've had 2 pregnancies where I've not been pregnant and known life and what that is like normally in pregnancy and kind of the support that you feel in that time. And then now to not go really anywhere except for necessities and to not kind of have that same level of at least face-to-face support has been challenging. I just found myself weepy and emotional and just kind of heavy spirited. And I think it's this underlying stress that we're all dealing with constantly that just kind of hits of the vulnerability of this time. And I think for many in the medical profession, they're dealing just with that constantly. And my heart goes out to them because it's just heavy constantly. It just probably doesn't let up. And so just longing for that relief, especially for those that are at the front lines, people that are in the medical profession. My heart has just been heavy, especially for them. So just praying for relief for that, even praying with our 6-year-old, you know, Lord, please just resolve this, and asking for him to turn things around. So, but we've tried to stay as a family pretty like just active here at home, gardening and doing outside, you know, enjoying spring and being together as a family and sewing into our relationships and working on the album. So we tried to make it intentionally focused, and we're already homeschooling. So I suppose that part didn't change a whole lot. We just kind of done homeschool on Zoom.
We're fortunate here in Tennessee. We can get out. Like my parents are in New York, and I'm like, hey, at least you go outside. And they're like, what are you talking about? We had another cold front, or you know.
Yes,
like,
of course.
Yeah, you know, we have had that advantage. At least we get outside and get in the garden and that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly, and that has helped a lot. Just to kind of give perspective, and nature kind of helps, I think, remind us of God and that He is powerful and beautiful and in control. And so I think that element has been helpful for our family.
Question for you. So you experienced success early in life. And so I've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of weeks, and people tend to fall into 2 different buckets. One is, hey, I do a thing, and right now I don't know what's happening with my thing, my job, my creative outlet, of course, so many of our friends are in the entertainment business that, is completely halted.
Yeah.
So there are all these questions about this thing I do. Then this other bucket is, well, I've wondered about doing this side hustle, or I've wondered about having this creative expression, or I've wondered about maybe trying something new. But now both worlds are full of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of anxiety in both places. For someone who had success early, had this run, and then retired young, so to speak. There's a little bit in the I don't know if it's like this in Australia, but I think I've spent my life in America. There's a little bit in the American mindset that life is supposed to be a progression. You get more stuff,
right? You
get bigger stuff. You have more success, and it seems like the idea of ever stopping or going backwards is almost contrary to our psyche. Why would I downsize? Why would I have less? Why would I intentionally not go to the next level?
Yeah.
When you came to that space of retirement, did you face any of those questions? Did you walk through any of that stuff? And if you did, how did what did that do for you? And what did you come to in the middle of all that?
Yeah. Yeah. I wrestled a lot with just kind of identity and value, which I feel like is a lot of what you're just kind of, getting at in your question. And I think for me, it was just finding my value, especially in relationships, outside of doing and outside of being productive, because my whole life I had known a certain level. I mean, yeah, even not being a full grown up, I had known this level of productivity and seeing the fruit of my labor and feeling a sense of fulfillment and value in that. And I think when that was gone, even though it had been my choice, and for some it's not the choice, especially right now. But when that was gone, it was almost like this ringing silence in my ear of, okay, do I matter? Like, do I matter? What, where is my value coming from? And can I contribute? And there was some counseling for sure in that time, my goodness. And I believe in counseling very much, and wise Christian counseling. And so I had a counselor say, did you know, Rebecca, that you could sit in a room with someone else, not say anything, not give anything, not do anything, and be of value to them?
Wow.
And it was like, it was just so transformative, just even kind of thinking that through and going, yes, my presence, literally who God made me to be, just my person can be a gift to others. And so I think I had to come to that place. I'm kind of getting goosebumps just talking about it, but I had to come to that place of going, God, you've created me in such a way that I can be a gift to others without doing or saying or accomplishing. And it was a really freeing place. And it's a freeing place to now come back to music with.
Yeah.
And so, everyone's going to start back up again with everything. But I think we need to go, okay, what is God saying to us in this time, in the silence, in the deafening silence of this time? It sometimes feels like very loud, like, what do we do with this?
Yes.
But what is God's intention for this time, and what can we take away? What can we learn? What can be the fruit of this time? I think that's been really on my heart.
Yeah, when you said the ringing silence, I was like, wow, that's such a great phrase. Because I wonder if that's part of the anxiety right now is in the absence of the ability to do what we normally do, our identity is in question for a lot of us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
And that kind of exposes us. So along with some very real like health questions and then questions about how am I going to pay the bills, you add to that, for some, maybe even an existential crisis of going, no, I actually haven't really paid attention to this part of me in a very long time.
Yes. And I think it is, it's healthy for all of us, like, to embrace the Sabbath concept, right? Like, just that we need times of regularly of rest and renewal. And I think for me, I defied so many of my internal red lights for so long. Like, I just felt like I could kind of press through or rally. And, we only have so much capacity, all of us. But when we're kind of forced, like right now, to kind of think through things and process and listen to what God might be saying in the silence and what he might be gently just saying, hey, I'd like you to be free in this area. There's something very powerful about that.
So I'm wired a lot like you and your one of your brothers in particular. And I have that, I tend to have a high capacity. I tend to go hard. And I have a deep longing that never goes away to sit and be alone and pay attention to God and be in his presence. That long, like I've had that since I was a little kid. But so to me, it's there and it rings true. But I still often trump the needs of the moment or needs of other people to what I actually am longing for in my own heart. How have you? Is there a spiritual practice? Is there something you do that helps slow you down, give your intent to that space alone with God to be sure you're showing up like you said, just present with who you are, not what you do? Is it just mindset? What practices have you put in place to help people like me?
Oh man, I know, Jamie, you could teach me a million things about this, because I just feel like in some ways I'm a disciplined person, but I I would love to be more spiritually disciplined or routine. And I think, you know, having 2 small children and homeschooling and work, like there's a lot going on, and the day starts with children needing you, you know?
Right.
So, you kind of like, and I'm a night person, so I'm not the one to wake up at 5 a.m. and I feel like everyone would pay for that if I even. So yeah, this is not mom. If mama ain't happy and mama ain't rested, ain't no one happy. But you know, I have some wonderful devotional books that I kind of reach for throughout the day, especially if I'm needing like just this reminder and this perspective of what really matters and what doesn't. There's a wonderful devotional book. I have it actually right next to me here on our couch at home. Echoes of Eternity by Hal Helms. That is amazing.
But that helps regulate you. Hearing from that devotional author from your Bible, that is a regulator for you to kind of like.
Oh yeah. Just like coming back to like what actually matters, what's eternal, what is like centering on truth. Because I think I probably, like many of us, just can get so caught up in the needs of the now. It's what you're saying. Yes, it's like if people need this from me. I need to do this and my to-do list, and be so task oriented that I'm kind of missing the forest for the trees. Like I'm not focused on what really, really matters. And so for me, reaching out to the Bible, to a devotional book, to dive in on God's perspective and my value in him, and that I can trust him. I can rest in him. He's my good dad that's got my back always. This is the reminder that I need. And prayer, obviously, you know, like just, Lord, please just bring me back to truth right now. Like, and nature honestly does that for me too.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Very much so. Something about being outside, just
it's God's world.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's I read an author recently who said it was almost like the first incarnation, right? God created the heavens and the earth. You know.
Yeah.
Could you give us one more thing in your story? This is a question I've been asking everybody because it's so on the forefront. We're all dealing with uncertainty. Now, it sounds like, at least for us in Tennessee, we're hearing some positive news that things may reopen soon. But even that is still filled with a lot of questions, right? And, and it sounds like pretty quickly there are going to be people arguing whether or not we should open or shouldn't open. And I mean, I have a feeling, you know, we were thinking this would be a year of conflict with the election anyway. I have a feeling
we weren't ready for this level.
There's going to be and the conflict is not going to go away because everyone's going to have an opinion on what we should and shouldn't do regarding this virus.
Yeah.
When you have had other major, or maybe even go back to a story where you faced massive uncertainty.
Yeah.
And how did you get through it, and how are you different because of it?
That's a wonderful question. I think I feel like I've gone through certain winter seasons in my life, you know, various ones, but probably the most like radical and life informing and most recent was prior to what God did 2.5 years ago in my heart. And we were just in this very deep winter. And I think a lot of people they would say they're in a winter right now, emotionally, you know, and circumstantially. And that was us. So my husband's job situation had changed and that was gone. So that kind of security and that sense of we know what we're doing and we know what our purpose is. And all of that was gone, which again, a lot of people can relate to right now. We were trying to have a second child and I ended up miscarrying twice in that season, which was extremely difficult. So my husband was hit on the masculine level. I was hit on the feminine level to our core. So both of us were really emotionally hit hard by circumstances. And then there was just so much. It was like when it rains, it pours. There was other stuff going on around us in family relationships. There was, just stress on our marriage. There was like so much going on that just hit really heavy. And I remember just being in that winter going, Lord, I don't even know how to deal with this or what to think. And I struggle even with feeling like, when is this going to change? When is this going to end? And like and then I just remember being at this event, and it was with my brothers, Joel and Luke, who were in the band for King and Country. And we were doing a show actually in Alaska, of all places. And I had been asked to just do a couple songs like in their set. And God showed up in such a radical and transformative way that night, without me even kind of anticipating it. And I remember being on stage and just kind of sharing my story. We're in this winter right now, in this challenging season, and all we know to do is just say, God, you are our good Father, and we trust you in the middle of it, and we open our hands to you. And we're in the middle of it right now. And it was a real vulnerable moment for me on stage to share that, because I think a lot of us want to give the happy story of, this is all resolved. Like,
right.
Yeah, look at the victory.
Here's how it turned out.
But we were in the middle of it, and it was this daily process of, Lord, we've got to come back to what we know, and we trust you. And so I shared that, and God transformed my heart in such a radical way. I walked off that stage. I said to my brother Joel, God has just called me back to music, and I don't even know what all this is going to entail, but so much like pain and like it fell away. It was like this Damascus experience, like scales falling from my eyes, and just this spring. And God brought spring to my heart. And then he began to bring spring to the circumstance. And we fell pregnant with our daughter Imogen, who's now 2 right after that. So I just want to say to people in the middle of it right now, just trust God. I mean, it sounds so simple, but cling to what you know about God in this time. Because he is faithful, and he will redeem even the worst things when we trust him and open our hands to him. And I've seen that in my life. So.
In that that moment with on stage and that release, this is interesting to me, because I actually remember Joel coming back from that trip and telling me we had this amazing experience with God, and Rebecca had this thing, and it impacted him. You know, he was talking, it really seeing that in you had really impacted him.
Yeah.
But so it's interesting. So you have this moment with God, but it doesn't necessarily mean the next week he's signing a record deal, right?
No.
So there's then a process of still healing. I mean,
yes.
What does it mean to come back to get your voice, to all the things, to writing again, right? That. Because for people who are like, oh, that's right, I wish I have a moment like Rebecca. Like, if God would just give me a Damascus experience, then I could be back.
No.
But that just becomes like almost the beginning of the opening, right?
Yes, exactly. And it was a painful reopening too. You know, there's definitely been a lot of vulnerability and triggers in what I would call our spring. And I even came to a place recently where I felt like I was trying to deny any winter. So I was like, I'm all in on spring. This is my spring. This is my spring, and I'm here in spring, and I've been here, and this is all good. And I realized I was not being honest about the fact that even the most beautiful spring has these elements of winter when it comes to our hearts. You know, life is never perfect here on this earth, ever. There's always something that is challenging, and always something that turns us to our need for God, you know? And so I just had to get real honest with tears with God, just going, Lord, I'm sorry that I have just been trying to cling on to this. Everything's good. And you know, it's all good and it's all spring. No, there's some challenges also in a spring season in your life. And in a winter, there's beauty too. There's some spring in any kind of deep winter, we can see God. So
from that moment
that's a lesson.
That moment of being called back to the release of this album, how much time has gone by?
So far, 2.5 years, more than that.
I think that's so significant for people to hear. You might have a calling. God might really be inviting you to a thing, but sometimes it's actually even deeper work. And it means the calling is probably going to involve a process before you get to, and I'm sure even when you said, yes, I'll do music, what was in your mind was not, well, I'll sign with Bethel and we'll do a worship. You know, you don't know exactly what the outcome will even be, right?
Yep, exactly.
Is that the faith thing? Is that the showing up and trusting? Yeah, that's what you're saying. It sounds cliche, but it's trusting.
Yep. And I feel like I've hit these points just throughout the journey, every probably few months where it's just like, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming, or there's all these triggers, or there's all this pain from that deep winter, and why I'm doing this, really? What? But it just having to, again, come back to what I know. God called me to this. God called our family to this. Like he's trustworthy. He will finish what he begun with this. Like just coming back to truth over and over again. That has helped in those times. And I feel like I've also just begged him, like, please just do something, come through for me. And he has. Every time when I've kind of hit that breaking point of like, I can't deal, this is too much. He's come through in some kind of way. When I ask him specifically, please just encourage my heart right now, do something, or pray specifically for breakthrough, there has been that. And so that's been really sweet to see him show up like that in my need.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, Rebecca, thank you for taking the time. And on behalf of music fans, thanks for coming back to music.
Thank you,
Can't
Jamie.
wait to hear this album. This is going to be amazing.
Thank you.
If folks,
appreciate your prayers.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And for people that want to follow along and connect with some of your music, or even the books or any of that, where would they go? What's a good site to send them to?
Facebook and Instagram is probably the best way right now, and the easiest for most people.
And what's your Instagram?
Oh, just Google Rebecca St. James in there. Just put my name in.
And something will come up.
And Instagram will pop up, and you'll see.
I love it.
Google my name.
Yes, all right. I love it. Well, I hope you feel good through this process with your pregnancy.
Thank you.
Please say hello to Cubby and give him a hug for me. And
I will.
Hope you guys are great.
So much.
Great to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Great to see you too, Jimmy. Blessings.
Blessings.